So from the emerald mines to now fully immersed in the AI world, take us through that process of how you went from mining and being this salt to the earth dude to now, I mean, you're still a salt to the earth dude, let's not forget that, but
yeah.
And now just everything that you're doing and building with AI, I'd say you're one of the few people that I've met that is really far ahead within AI. So walk us through that to start this off.
Sure. Well, thank you. So like 5 years ago, I got into Colombia, just gotten laid off during COVID, and I was just kicking it in Colombia with the girlfriend I had at the time, and really just down to the last penny, and as fate would have it, I got an email from a recruiter who I forgot I was even on her listserv, and she said, hey, there's a opening up for a job, assistant mine manager in where you're at, in Bogota. And so I met with the guy there, the vice president, as he was coming in from the mine like a week later, and it wasn't even an interview. He was just like, look, this is how it is. Do you still want the job, basically? I was like, sure. And then did that for 2 years. So it was like 20 days on, 10 days off. And when you're at the mine camp, there's like barbed wire everywhere. You can't really leave. It's a high security place. You know, I always had a guard with me, always traveling in armored vehicles. So it's a pretty heavy environment, fun, but so I had a lot of free time, basically, because you can't leave. So after my shift, you know, I would study Spanish, and then I taught myself how to code, just basic stuff. Like, you know, I read this book, Learn Python the Hard Way, and just did all the exercises. And it was in a pretty nice routine because there's no like external stimuli. There's no women. There's nothing you can do, really. There's no TV. So I just like stay in my office at the end of the shift and just learn stuff. I painted a little bit and drew, but learned code. And then when ChatGPT came out, it was like 3.
What year was this?
I believe it was 2022.
2022?
In November, I believe so. Yeah. I think
That's
so.
crazy for the listeners, that all of us that are so immersed into ChatGPT and these AIs, that realistically it's only been, 4 years since these things have been implemented.
It hasn't been long, and it's come a long way, that's for sure. And then when that mining contract ended, I was kind of like a crossroads. It's like, do I pursue like mining? And that's what I tried to do. I tried to find another mining job, but I really fell in love with Colombia. So I wanted to stay in Colombia. But as fate would have it, like the 3 guys I interviewed with for different mining opportunities, they didn't want to pay very much, and like it was just very dangerous, more so than the mine I was at, like shootouts going on underground and stuff.
Did you ever experience any of that when you were working in the mines?
No, unfortunately. There would be people consistently trying to like tunnel their way in, but we had like over 200 some security guards and like a drone that was consistently monitoring and filling those in. But there were other mines, that definitely had that problem. Like the villagers would try to tunnel in. At that mine particularly, before I got there, or it might have been on a time where I wasn't at the mine, there was like an incident where like they were banging at the gate, and I do believe like somebody got shot and killed, pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I can imagine you're working, like the workers are underground, they're doing their thing, and then all of a sudden a wall gets blasted open, and it's these Colombian pirates or whatever you want to call it with machine guns here to just take all their shit. And I'm sure that probably happens.
Yep, it happens. Yeah, it happens sometimes. It never happened at the mine I was at because their security was so big, but
Plus it made you feel good.
Yeah. We had like a few like special ops guys there, like retired on contract, and so like I'm sure there was like SOPs involved. Hey, if they break in through the gates, like helicopters come and get the expats out immediately, type of thing. But luckily that never happened.
Okay. So fast forward post mining, what have you been working on like these past 4 years, ever since you got into AI, you got into artificial intelligence? What did you like? Walk us through your path of kind of downloading this artificial intelligence brain into your brain.
Yeah, sure. So, still at the mine, ChatGPT had come out and I was fascinated by it. And, going on YouTube University, like at the time, the biggest thing was like AI automations with just using make.com, like plugging in, ChatGPT into like a little node that does some binary thing or takes data in, writes an email, little stuff like that, or analyzing meeting transcripts and making you a little document, emailing it to you. But then as AI progressed, it went from that to like N8N workflows were a big thing. N8N blew up, and everybody was on that, building like AI agents, and then, Claude Code came out, and then OpenClaw and stuff like that. And so, yeah, like I really got pretty lucky, thank God, because like for a year, like I said, I had 1 foot in the mining, 1 foot, hey, you can be an entrepreneur, you can do these things. But I was really kind of forced into being an entrepreneur. When the money gets tight, your brain starts to think a little quicker. And you start making moves. And so, yeah, I got lucky. I got a client I'm still with today, Max Toro. He's a big viral coach on all the socials. And I just kind of built his whole infrastructure out. Still uses today. And I got another client after that. It was a startup. And then just, kept picking up clients little by little, And
real quick on that, so for example, this first guy, Max, how did you go into it? Just like, hey, this is what you currently have, and based off the knowledge and what I've been studying, this is how I can make it better utilizing these systems. And then would you kind of use it as as time went on, it's like, oh wait, we can do this too. We can build on top of this. Can you walk us through that process?
For sure. So he was very like AI interested. And he had a big like list of things to do that he was dreaming up that he wanted to do, right? Because like at the time was AI. I mean, AI still is pretty popular, but at the time it was like really starting to gain traction. Like, hey, you can use it to do this and help you, blah blah blah. So I just kind of went through and did everything on his list step by step by step. One of the first things was, his clients would be in the Facebook page, always asking questions, and then a CSM, I forget what that even stands for, customer service.
Client success manager.
That's it, yeah. Client success manager, would have to manually answer it. But they would answer it, basically based off of his framework that he had outlined in the course. And so RAG was a big thing at the time, retrievable augmented generation.
Still is quite big, right?
Yeah, it still is. It's just now that the context window of AI is like 1 million tokens. I think at the time it was like only 120,000.
Wow.
So like RAG, you kind of needed that if you had like a big thing. So he had like a over 400 some video course. And so I basically took all the transcripts from it, made vector embeddings. And then so when a client would ask a question, it would answer in his voice. It would say, you should do this, this, and this. And then if they wanted further details, it would recommend like the actual videos to watch with the timestamps specifically to watch them. So it's just like one little thing, but yeah.
Nice. And what have you been really focused on? Like, let's kind of get into, and if we want to get into Big Dog, sure. Now, what has been your focus this year?
Sure. So at the start of this year, I saw like a gap in the voice market, like the voice AI market. Like the big players, Gemini, Grok, and OpenAI, they've been developing and releasing these speech-to-speech models. Claude's obviously a big player, but they focus more on like coding. They don't have any voice models. And what I notice is like on the big platforms, like the main platforms, they didn't offer these speech-to-speech models. I was like, this is strange. So I decided to make my own voice platform, and that took about 4 months to build. LeadLock, it's called, and it has all the different speech-to-speech platforms on there. And you know, as time progresses, those models will get better, and I truly see like speech-to-speech being the future. Right now, I would say it's slightly better, but not like super better than say like 11 Labs, which is still the speech-to-text, text-to-speech kind of flow. But if it's an audio model that's trained on audio in, audio out, the next updates are probably going to be more so like, okay, like I can sense his emotion, I'm going to answer more empathetically, or he's really mad, I'm going to answer more concerned. You know, that's how the speech-to-speech I see is going to really break the mold when they can figure that out, which I would say is pretty soon.
So you think that's like a big transition? What's coming next is a lot more people are going to be actually communicating with their AI agent, and it'll be responding back to them with emotion as well, you think?
1,000%, yeah. Yeah, we already see it with like a little bit with like 11 Labs conversational flow, like V3, which is really good. Like, not so much conversationally, but they have these audio tags. So like, say you have like a big script and you want it to kind of read it to you like a story, and you would put like a tag like excited before the sentence, and the narrator would sound excited or like frightened, like, or dramatic or whatever you want. So eventually like that'll be embedded somehow in the speech-to-speech in like real time, you know, as the model's progressing. How advanced they are.
And with LeadLock, what do you do for clients with LeadLock? If you could give a few examples.
Sure. So LeadLock is for agencies to go on and resell it. So we do done for you as well, but it's not really our main focus. Our main focus is more so to empower agencies to make voice agents and text agents. You know, it hooks up to WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook chat as well, obviously SMS, and then you got the voice, which is like the main selling point. Just to make these types of systems for their clients. So it's like a platform that you can build voice agents and things like that on, for them to like resell, and then their client would have a client-facing dashboard. You know, they can upcharge the minutes for their clients, so they have a nice margin, however they want to set it up. It's really for agencies looking to resell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, I wanted to use LeadLock. I had a sales organization, and I wanted to use an AI agent voice to make phone calls for me to set appointments. Is that something that LeadLock would do? And then also, how well do you think that would be? Because there's a lot of, you know, in this trust economy that we're living in, there's a lot of people that are receptive to AI agents coming in and doing like the human things, which I can agree with that. But if you got a really good one that's maybe just setting appointments, because that's like an easy, and usually sometimes we'll pay like very minimal to have someone do that. So it seems like something that if we can find a good AI agent to set appointments like that, that feels real, feels authentic, and then maybe set the appointment for us. Is that something that LeadLock will do?
Yeah, absolutely. Like any type of, I would say the best place to deploy a voice agent when you have a lot of volume, like if you're only getting, say a person's only getting a few calls a day, what's the point? You know?
Yeah.
But if they're getting like, you know, 50 calls a day and they're supposed to be doing something else, yeah, I would definitely install it. And then, yeah, like you said, like keep the scope small, you know, just appointment set, right? You could have it transferred to you if you're not busy, stuff like that. But, you know, I mean, you can, if you want, set up like a massive like team of agents that can like transfer like a whole customer support staff type of thing. But in sales, you know, especially high ticket, I wouldn't personally ever put a voice, at least now, unless it can really sound human 100% and think like a human can, like on the fly. like close high ticket deals, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either.
Just like one step, like, yeah, book the appointment or re-engage old leads. Like, you know, say you have a big list of, say you were running meta ads and you couldn't reach out to all these leads in time, or say you want to do a lead reactivation campaign. Yeah, you could start up like a sequence, like send a text, right? And then send a call or stuff like that. You know?
With these, and I want to transition this, but stay on LeadLock, but move into the AI agent, because I got a lot of questions for you on that. But let's say I want to use us for an example. So we're about to relaunch our marketing agency. And with the understanding and use of AI, we pretty much don't need really any employees. Before we had CSMs, like what we were talking about before, a lot of CSMs, other employees, maybe whether we got them from the Philippines or what have you, but it's pretty much we're learning how to automate all of this. So what are your thoughts on seeing that within organizations, on having kind of the back end that's not really, you know, talking to customers to get them to sign a 15K deal,
For sure.
but handling this backup stuff, and then having agents do these tasks that are really high leverage and are very important? Because what I notice is a lot of people have a little bit of a lack of trust with AI, of course.
For sure.
So where does, I guess, how do we fill that gap of trusting AI with some, you know, really important business responsibilities?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I would say most businesses, right, because AI progressed so quickly. You know, we started off just doing the AI automation, then AI agents, then like agentic workflows, and now we have like AI employees. Most of these businesses, they could, because it moves so fast, they never implemented like the foundation, like automating the boring admin data transfer stuff, right? That's just simple AI automations. So I think, like, you know, stuff like that, automate that stuff first for them, automate their admin boring stuff. They gain a little bit of trust with that. You know, but another thing on that is, like, if they're talking about data leakage or anything like that, well, most people's data is already in the cloud anyway. So the AI would just be pinging that data, right? So it's really, I would explain it to a client like that for sure. Like, it's already in the cloud. AI is just gonna, you know, ping it. And you can set up, like, you know, workflows where there's validation gates in there. And you just set, hey, you know, this is how I respond. This is the way I speak. You must check this file, validate all the facts that you're going to say, you know, stuff like that.
And then with the AI agents, I want to go deep into this because I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. You made a good point to me, I believe it was last week. You said everyone's trying to get these Hermes agents and these OpenClaw without actually doing the fundamentals first. It's like skipping a bunch of steps where the fundamentals is really what you need to do and master in the beginning. And I guess that's been my focus these past 6 months, is truly understanding the fundamentals. But I'm at a stage where I want to understand more within these agents. Like, I have agents working for me, but it's on silly stuff. Like, I have an agent that is attached to my Garmin, and it reads it's very cool, but it reads my sleep data, and then every morning, and it gives me a report about how I slept, and then it's trained on my workouts. So it studies my workouts, and it gives me the weights that I need to do for that day, and then it'll cross-reference my blood work, my sleep data, my HRV, and say, hey, you should really go hard today because you got good sleep. Or, hey, your HRV shit, you got terrible sleep. Don't hurt yourself in the gym today. Still go do the workout. But it's really cool. But I essentially have an agent doing that. But that's like a small thing on what I know is possible. So can you help me understand agents? And for the listeners, help us understand agents, how we can utilize agents within our businesses, within our personal life. And then maybe if you want to lead into Big Dog.
For sure.
From there, and how you utilize Big Dog, the agent that you created.
Okay, for sure. So, like, an AI agent, all it is I mean, it started off as, like, when ChatGPT first came out, it didn't have the ability to do internet research, didn't have the ability to create images. It was just you chat with it, right? So when it became an AI agent is when you have that chatbot access to tools. So these tools, they're just called tools or functions. Like a tool could be, accessing your files, or a tool could be doing internet research, or making an image or a video, like these types of things. And that's what makes an agent an agent. And then you can, have there's all kinds of ways you can architect it, but you can have sub agents talking to an orchestrator agent, and the sub agents just have a specific task. Like this sub agent will go look through all your files or something in like Excel or whatever you want, Word documents. This one's job is to do internet research, and then they all combine together, and then the orchestrator agent does its thing, makes its decision. So you can kind of do it like that, but
that's kind of like the idea of the ministry of experts that we were going through.
Yeah,
but with different models.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I guess what I'm curious too, if you don't mind, and excuse me cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
But how we can train individual agents, like what you did with Big Dog, because I've used a lot of agents in terms of coding, right? But every time you start a new chat, it's like an agent that has memory. Maybe it's connected to your Obsidian wiki, so it knows you, but you're starting fresh with a new agent. But what is interesting is an agent that you have these certain skills and it knows exactly what to do, and then it can fire out these sub agents.
Yeah, for sure. So you do that with just within your repository. You'd have like a Claude.md if you're in Claude Code, and that's just like the basic rules. But without getting too nerdy, what you want to really do is just manage your context. Like a year ago, like the context window in a chat was very small, so you were kind of forced to learn how to manage your context well. So like big example, right, like of context engineering is, say you want a new feature for your app, but you want to build it in a way that when it's built, it doesn't break everything else. Like it doesn't do what's called regression. 80% of your time should be like making those markdown files that'll serve as the context for the execution step. So, you might want to spin up some agents to do research, look at previous bugs you've had in the past, look at common gotchas, look at integration points, things like that. Then you want to validate your plan after that. So you would start it, because within one context window, the AI can get kind of bias.
Yeah.
So after your plan is done, you should just say like /clear or start a new chat like from fresh, point it towards the plan, and then say, hey, validate the plan. Because then it'll be unbiased. It'll actually validate it without bias. And then if you have to fix anything, you fix it. And then, after it's all fixed, you might clear it again, run a re-review, fresh, no bias. And then once your plan has pretty high confidence level, then and only then would I say, okay, execute that actual plan. And then you can do different techniques like test-driven development, where you write your tests that should pass upon the feature being implemented. But that's how you kind of want to, think about building new features. Long story short, like 80%, 90% of your plan, or 90% of the time you should be planning, because the execution's the easiest part. As soon as the plan's done, like.
I love that. I was just talking about that with my business partner, Chris, up there. And what he will do is he creates a bestpractices.md file. And it's like, okay, do all this deep research, add it to the best practices MD file, and then the next agent will study that. So you're saying is maybe to create a best practices.md file, do all this research, but the important part is you want to clear that window. You don't want to continue with the same agent, right? Because it'll be relatively biased.
Yeah, well, that's if you're developing like a new feature, right? Like in your application. If you're just like, say, you want to create a proposal, right? And you have all this context of, right, you had the first sales meeting with the lead when he was a lead, right? So you might want to tell your agent, hey, ingest this into the knowledge graph, this guy, make a profile for him, like analyze his personality, whatever you want to do. So then when you write the proposal, when it comes to proposal time, you could have a skill that analyzes and uses that context, that kind of knows who this guy is, to write the proposal in a way that might resonate with him the best, right? That's kind of stuff. So yeah, like the context is king. So it really is. So when you build like AI employees, you really want to have like a knowledge graph type of thing. And you really, in your skills, when you're writing skills, you always want to have in your skills, hey, look here, get the context from here, you know, instead of like...
And that'll be within your skills, excuse my interruption.
Yeah.
It'll be a readme.md, like within the skills, you'll have a readme. Or...
It'll be directly in the markdown that the skill is.
Okay.
So like, you know, say you had a skill that was, for example, generate proposal, right? So in the terminal, when you say like / generate proposal, after that / you can have in the skill like different variables you want to put in it, or you could just say / generate proposal, because that's how you used to have to do it. Like in your skill, you'd have like a place where variables were known to come in. They were called / commands, but now everybody switched over to skills. Sorry to get into the weeds. So you'd have in your skill the step-by-step way to go about it. So like get the information from here first, right? Or deploy sub-agents that research and get the information from here in the knowledge graph. Or, you know, I digress, like to make the proposal, get the information from here on X client. And then the next step would be make the proposal in a way based off of your research and analysis that he would resonate with, right?
How do you recommend, because I can just see some listeners going through this and it's just going right over their head, right? But it's very important, I believe, that we start to understand these things and how we can implement them in our business. Because one thing that I like to focus on, and I teach this a lot within Dream State, is how to be more effective within your time, right? Because you can be productive, but what's your effectiveness within your productive hours? If you're working for 8 hours, well, how effective were you? And I just find AI is such a great way to leverage the effectiveness scale. So with someone just starting out, how would you recommend that they don't get all overwhelmed by this? Because I see a lot of people, they'll just quit.
Yeah.
They'll get into the weeds and they're just like, okay, I'm just not meant for this. Let me just hire someone to do this for me, or let me just stick to how things were the old way.
Yeah, for sure. So you have to kind of think in systems, right? And I think like, you know, going to school for engineering just kind of helped me just naturally think in terms of systems and like finding efficiencies, which probably annoys people sometimes.
Well, it's very first principle thinking as well.
Yeah, exactly. So think in terms of systems, like how would this currently be done manually, right? Manually done. What type of roles or people are involved in this task? You know, say for example, you're designing a website, right? How would you do that? Well, you'd have to really brainstorm and ideate first. Like, what is the website for? You know, who would be the best person in this role to design like the images for the website or the animations for the website? Who would be the best person to design the UX, the UI? So you think about how it's currently done in an organizational structure, and then however you would do it. And I would just ask AI to help you, right? That's the biggest tip, is get AI to solicit the right information from you. Because these models, they get bigger and bigger, more advanced. So, and they're trained on like, you know, 1 trillion parameters or something. So if you just give it a simple task, there's 1 trillion ways it can extrapolate what it thinks your idea is into something else. So that's why like planning and having this back and forth and getting the AI to solicit the information from you, help you brainstorm, is so important. Because then the narrower like the context window is, and like the more guidelines and guide rails are, the more precise the actual output is going to be and more in line with your vision. Right?
When we think of, to kind of add on to this, when we think of the stages of AI, we have maybe stage 1, which is coming in and it's asking ChatGPT where the local doctor office is.
Yeah.
Right? And then stage 2, whatever that could be. How would you define these stages, and maybe someone is in stage 1 right now, or maybe they're in stage 2 where they're actually starting to use Claude Code and they're having it maybe audit their website or something along these lines. Do you have stages that you could think of, and maybe if someone is thinking about a Hermes agent right now, but they really shouldn't be thinking this far, they should be focused on maybe a stage 1 or stage 2 principles right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I would say like stage 1 was, like you said, just chatting with ChatGPT, right? But then like the stage 2 was, how do you take like the engine, like OpenAI's whatever XYZ model or Claude Opus 4.8 out of Claude and get it to do something, right? So that's like stage 1 where you're in, say, Claude, or stage 2 where like you're in Claude Code, and now instead of just interacting with the Claude app, whatever, you're getting it to do something like a dynamic workflow or things like that. Or I would say in stage 2, you're learning what an API is, right? Which I didn't know what it was, before I started. I didn't know anything about coding before I started. But
I didn't know what an API key was 2 months ago.
Yeah, just chase your curiosities. If you don't know something, ask the AI to explain it to you. Like one thing I would say, like, explain this to me like I'm 10 years old.
Yeah.
And then work your way up.
Yeah, I say that a lot.
Right. So I would say that's probably like stage 2, like you're getting it to do stuff. But then you want to have some like automations going on. So you're not really tied in to the terminal. So you might want to have what are called cron jobs.
Yep.
So cron job is just something that happens at a time schedule. Like, for example, like cron job would be, hey, every day at 3 a.m., look through all of my emails, for the previous day, and give me like a punch list or something like that. That would be like a cron job. And then you might want to have, webhooks attached to it. Like if you're running it in the cloud or something like an N8N workflow or something, which used to be huge, but now not so much. Still pretty useful, but yeah.
And what about stage 3? We're moving on from having these workflows and having agents go in and maybe have some cron jobs. What would you think stage 3 would be?
Having AI employees that get better and smarter every single day that you use them, and that you can command to do things like from your phone, so you're not so glued to the computer anymore. Like, the phone, like say your Telegram chat will be connected to your computer or a virtual private server. I just use my own MacBook. And you could just tell it things like, hey, I'm interested in doing this feature. Can you just do it, right? And just by that, because you have so many good skills, like you don't have to really, over-articulate yourself, because it would just, as soon as you do that, it has a file on you, your tastes, right? And it could just extrapolate what it knows about you to just kind of make the decisions on your behalf. And it would just get better with time. So but that's why you have to have these self-learning loops. So say you tell it to do a task, and you planned, you implemented, you validated, but something was off, or it ran into a bug. Well, it needs to store that bug in your knowledge graph, right? And then the next time you implement a feature, in your skills that implement the feature, you have to say, check the knowledge graph for bugs that have happened in the past, or things that you've done in the past that have caused regression, or things that we've determined to be best practices, like stuff like that.
I love that. Let's use an example, someone who's in stage 2. So someone listening, they're in stage 2 and they're utilizing Claude Code right now. They're getting excited about AI. They're popping in there every day, and they're having it maybe, if they're in business, they're having it do some high level automations for their business, or they're maybe vibe coding. How can we transition to this stage 3 of being able to communicate with our agents from Telegram? Do we need something like Hermes or OpenClaw? Maybe this would be a good time to lead into Big Dog. And how can we explain this to them in a simple way of communicating when you're out at dinner and it's just like you get a good idea and maybe that's not the best time you should do that. Enjoy your dinner with your spouse or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But when we get these ideas, or we want to be effective with our time and maybe communicate with our agent. So can you walk us through like a simple way on how we can go from stage 2 to stage 3?
For sure. I mean, I hate to say it, but it really is just like ass in the chair time. Like, you just gotta.
I'm finding this a lot right now.
You just gotta be passionate about it and just do it. Like, follow your curiosities. YouTube University, which now, I mean, you can just make a YouTube like skill. I have one that's called YouTube Research Skill. So I'll just plug in the URL, and then maybe like a lot of the videos I watch. Would have like a accompanying GitHub repo, just YouTube URL, the accompanying repo, and it'll extract the information. But yeah, you just kind of practice and learn how to communicate with the AI very effectively.
On top of that, there's a really cool Notebook LM has a web clipper, so you can use a Notebook LM web clipper, and it'll be in your top corner. So you're watching a video, boom, web clip, add it to X. Notebook LM, maybe YouTube Research AI, which has been very useful for me.
Yeah. And another thing too, like, you want to give the AI the proper context. So just go on Anthropic, get the docs, the documentation, and give it to Claude Code, like when you're in the terminal, and say, hey, here's the documents, here's all the things that you can do, here's the documentation. What's the best way I can do this? What's the best way I can go? But the thing is, it's just stay in the lane, like keep learning, get your algorithm tuned in, stay curious. And if you like something, just copy and paste it in, say, hey, is this effective? How can we use it for what we want to do? And it'll get better over time. Like the way you're talking to the AI will get better, and then your AI employee will get better too. Yeah.
So Big Dog is the AI employee that you created, right? Can you walk us through like why you created it and how it serves you with your businesses?
For sure. So like after LeadLock was done, I needed I didn't do what I should have done, which is like build in public, get a wait list, that kind of thing. I didn't do any of that. I was just like code dungeon, So I needed a go-to market, like AI employee, if you will, and that's kind of his job, right? So, and he's been built over time. Just like you said, you start off with an idea, all right, and this would be good for the people listening, is like, it's just reps, right? It's like you have an idea, now try to build it. Like, give it all the documentation it needs. Like, what APIs is it going to need? What's the best way to do it? How is it done manually now? How can we build an agentic workflow that mimics how it's done manually, right? And just do that over and over, and you'll get pretty good at designing skills and workflows. You just take your idea, practice, do it. The next time it'll be faster and easier. Next time it'll be faster and easier. So, yeah, Big Dog, it started off just, I wanted a LinkedIn kind of thing, right? Like something that could be in the DMs, DMing people, like, finding the ICP, sending connection requests. And then it turned into, okay, you send the connection request, they accept, have the draft automatically ready to send. And it's like, what else can we do? Can we go on there and like their posts or something? So now it does that. How can we make the chat better? Well, you use like a DM framework, which I got from my client, Max. It's like an 8-step DM framework. So now, you just build it over time, like, because the ideas will come to you. You get attuned to a certain frequency and your antennas ideas come. And so, you just want to keep feeding it the ideas and, expanding on it and building these features. And then, actually after you inspired me to make content. So I was like, well, let's make a content studio, Oh, I saw this. This is a viral kind of framework, right? Let me see if I can, instead of like editing it manually, is there a way I can edit it, with a workflow or automation, right? And so, you research the various APIs or open source repos that can kind of do what you want. You make the plan, you execute, you test it. Oh, this wasn't working. There's a bug here. Add it to your knowledge graph so the next time it happens, it won't have the same bug, right? So it's just a cycle. You just keep going and going, and yeah.
I love how it starts off with like your initial idea was, okay, I want to reach out to more people on LinkedIn. And I think this is a really good point, because we tend to think of like, I need this crazy agent that's going to do all this stuff. It's like, no, to start with like a first principle idea. And yours was, okay, I want to reach more people on LinkedIn. How can I do that?
Exactly.
And now you've got this really amazing system that's doing a lot more than just LinkedIn. Can you, it was really cool to see, if you're okay touching on this, with what you did with the operating system, the Claude agentic operating system that I sent over to you from Jack Roberts.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, I send him this repo. 2 days later, you've completely transformed it and you added Big Dog inside of it. And now it does all these features. I think it'd be cool for the listeners just to see, like, can you walk us through everything that you added to that?
Yeah, for sure. So that repo, it was specifically designed to have like a beautiful knowledge graph and then a Hermes agent. So Big Dog was built off of the Anthropic SDK, which is not Hermes. And so he was already like working. And so I just wanted to, take him off of the static HTML that he was on with like CSS and stuff, and put him onto the repo, which is like a React app, right? And React is just like a framework to build apps on, and it just is prettier, So I basically, I gave Big Dog the repo, and I said, how can we best implement you inside of the repo? Like, you're going to be, instead of Hermes, it's going to be you, right? And, a lot of back and forth, a lot of planning, a lot of validating the plan, because that's a big feature, right? You really have to get your plan right. And so I have like a 15-stage, it's not just plan, implement, validate, it's like 15-stage type of thing.
So you spend most of your time in planning mode.
100%. Yeah. Yep.
That's a really, really key point, is most people don't even know what planning mode is.
But yeah, you have to get the plan. You have to get the proper context so that the AI can do its job best. It's like, if you have an employee, right, and consider like every single chat that you start up with, you haven't typed in anything. It's basically like a brand new employee who doesn't know any of your SOPs for the role that he's supposed to do, like none of that. So you have to give him the proper context so he knows how to do the job right, right? And so, yeah.
So yeah, within that operating system now, so one thing I really like about it is the memory storage. It tells me like where my AI credits are going, all of this. But you added all these other features like LinkedIn messaging. You can see that, what Big Dog is doing within the app. What other features are within that?
Well, you have the content studio. So he'll find content ideas that, he knows who I am. Big Dog knows who I am. He knows who the ICP is. He has access to Appify, which is like, on Appify, they're called actors. They're basically like web scrapers.
Yep.
So it can web scrape Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. And so it'll be able to like go and scrape, give content ideas. And then I built like that teleprompter thing, like after an idea is cool. Made, it'll have like, all right, your idea is made. Now write the first draft. So it'll write the first draft, and then it can go into like, all right, now that the first draft's made, like make it viral. So it can say, have a CTA if you want a CTA, or it can have like make it go in a loop. It's like one of those looping reels. I forget the other one it did for me, but once you have that, it'll just open up on the teleprompter on your computer. You just read it, right? And then once you read it, you say send to Submagic, and then you send it to Submagic and do a little editing, and then you just schedule it and you're good. But you can also do carousels as well. So it knows, like, I gave it my brand guidelines, like the color scheme, the fonts. Context is king. Just you have to be careful what context you give and at what time and what skill, and not too careful. Like the AI is pretty smart now, but yeah.
And within agents, so within Big Dog, let's say for someone who's utilizing Claude Code and they're speaking with their agent, most of the time it solves your question within maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes if it's really complex. When people say they're having an agent work for them overnight or working on a task for 4 or 5 hours,
Sure.
what type of things are these agents working on for that long of a time period?
Right. So you'd either do like a loop, so like slash loop. What do you want it to loop through? Or like slash goal. So like say you have a goal, like for example, right? I wanted to give Big Dog a makeover, right? And so I just got Higgsfield, which is this video and image generator that you can hook directly up to Claude Code. And so I was like, hey, I want some animations. I want some nice images. Here's a skill called taste. So I gave it the taste skill, right? I wanted to give all the context it can. And I said, all right, Big Dog. And I gave it to Fable. So with Fable, you don't have to give too much guidelines. Like you can just let it kind of run wild. So I said, look, I'm giving you free reign. You have Higgsfield connected to you. You have this taste skill if you want to use it. But I want you to go through the entire app, page by page. And I want you to do 3 iterations. Use Agent Browser to take screenshots, which is Vercel Agent Browser. It's just another skill you can get. To take screenshots, verify, it looks good on each page, 3 different iterations, and then go on to the next page. And it was a simple prompt really. And then you just say slash goal, and then it'll just do it. And it took a few hours, but it'll just do it. Other things that would be going on overnight, they're called daemons, daemons. And those are generally like things that, you want to like, all right, say if you want to like check stuff, you'd have like a consistently on type of like AI agent. So you could say like every 10 minutes or continuous or however you want. I think daemons are continuous. Just like check these things and do something with what you find, right? So like Big Dog has a Big Dog dream, so it'll go through the entire code base and look for like inefficiencies and things like that. Another one that I saw from Nick Sarev, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's a big AI guy. He just came out with one I thought was pretty badass. And what it'll do is it'll take a screenshot every 5 seconds of your computer. So as you're working, and with that information, it'll then feed it into like Fable like once a day, and it'll say, analyze how I'm working and find ways where I can improve my work efficiency.
Wow.
So that's cool stuff.
That's in alignment with like the dream concept. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And he made that video. I was like, damn, that's a good one for people. Nick Sarev. Yeah.
Where do you see, to kind of wrap this up, where do you see, AI is moving so quick, and it's almost impossible to keep up with anything. Where do you see AI in 1 year?
That's a great question. I would say like we'll see more AI employees for sure. But there's such a gap of like what companies are doing versus what they can do, especially in like antiquated type of businesses, like maybe logistics, trucking, hauling, mining, stuff like that. I would say, especially with these businesses that make a lot of money and they don't necessarily need to implement AI. But I would say AI is going to, or it should, start automating a lot of like the boring admin work that people kind of dredge, or I forget what that word, dread doing, right? So yeah, I would say AI, like voice is going to be really big. Like voice agents are probably going to sound close to human. Well, we're seeing like a lot of these models get rescinded. Like Fable came out and the government said no.
Yeah.
So we'll probably see a lot more of that. Restricted access to the top models, unfortunately. But Google actually released a paper. As long as your agentic harness is good, that's like 90% of it. The model doesn't really matter as much, which I found to be true.
Can you elaborate on what an agentic harness is?
Agentic harness is just like, say you want to build a feature. What is like the workflow that you want to build that feature? Like, what are the steps involved? Like, how is it set up so it can validate its work? And you get kind of down to the granular level, right?
Do you think this? We'll wrap up with this question. This interesting one. Do you think that these AI models are kind of like almost catfishing us a little bit, where they're giving us Fable and they're getting us addicted to Fable, but then they're going to take it away? Do you think they could be doing this with some, like even Opus 4.8? We're getting so used to these models in our lives. Do you think there's going to be a point where in 6 months they're going to say, "Hey, 5x the cost now"?
Man, I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, excuse me for the pessimistic question, but it's a reality that I think could happen, and I'm seeing some, for instance, how they're presenting Fable. They gave it to us for 3 days, and then the government shut it off. Who knows if the government actually did that, or it was part of a plan that they did get to create this addiction to it. And now they released it for a week, and then they extended it for another 4 days. It's like they're doing similar things that what you would do with heroin, crack cocaine.
Yeah, I mean, like, coding with AI is like very addictive. I mean, you can't deny that. Like, hours go by, especially if you're in the zone. So it's an inherently addictive activity, like creating things with AI. But I would say, I mean, I've noticed sometimes that, like, you know, I have 3 Claude Max accounts, and I'm like, I'm blowing through this. Like, a few months ago, this was not happening, and I've been using it the same. Sometimes it'll do that, and Anthropic doesn't really release how their usage works. But I'd say to like compete, you know, because China's our competitor, right? Like, I don't think that it would be wise for them to do that, because people would just go to the Chinese models.
Like GLM?
Yeah, like GLM 5.2, which is, you know, Opus-esque. It's not as good, but it's, for the most tasks, it's good enough, which I also have. But I only got that because my usage timed out on 3 Max accounts, right? So, I mean, I would say, like, to turn a profit, that would be what they would do after we're all hooked, like keep charging more. But maybe to stay competitive, maybe that's not the right move. Right?
Bro,
hey,
thank you for your time, man.
Thank you.
This was a freaking pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Cheers, bro.
Me too.
Bye, everyone. Now what we'll do is do a brief intro. That's cool with you, Les?